All right, welcome. Hey, everybody. I am here with a very special friend and colleague. Robin Smith is an award-winning speaker, a master trauma communication and relationship coach for women. The queen of communication is here with us in the house today. And we're going to talk about all kinds of great tips for how we can learn how to be better in our communications with the people we love. And so I'm really excited to have Robin here. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about her and then we'll get into it, Robin. But just welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for coming and sharing your time with us today.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, Robin is she's the founder of the Rock Your Relationship movement, and she's helped thousands transform frustration into fulfillment by cultivating deeper, more conscious, and loving connections. With her thriving 23-year marriage as an inspiration, Robin combines practical relationship strategies with emotional healing to create lasting change. And her approach goes way beyond communication, reshaping how women experience love and connection. As a certified master trauma coach, she specializes in helping clients break free from trauma, unhealthy patterns, restoring harmony within their relationships and within themselves. So, with that, welcome, Robin. So glad to have you here with us today.
Yay, happy to be here, Risa. Thank you.
Yeah. So, tell us, darling, what is possible when you have empowered, healthy communication in your relationship? And why is that so important?
Yeah. Yes, a lot is possible. I think kind of what people dream of when they think I'm going to have a healthy, happy relationship is like greater connection, greater closeness, feeling like you're more on the same team instead of fighting and, battling each other or power struggles. And the feeling like it's not so much work. So when you have empowered communication, you're connecting more easily, you're hearing each other, you're feeling understood, which is what we all want, to be heard and understood and really feel like you get me, you're with me, you understand me. And so that's such a healing feeling that I think we all long for in relationships. And so that is possible when you communicate in a way that you can be heard and understood. And that, again, that like more ease, less work. So you're not like trying to get what you need so much. You're just communicating in a way that people are getting you. So those are my answer to that question. Yeah, that's
Beautiful,
possible. And why
beautiful.
is it so important? It's because it's like, yeah, we want, like, we're wired for connection, and we're wired to be in relationship. We're not supposed to be living alone. We're not supposed to be living in a cave, and so it's important for our nervous systems to have connection. It's important to feel like, I think most people long for connection, even if they're happy alone. Like, I'm not saying you have to have a romantic relationship. Some people are really happy alone, but we all kind of thrive when we have healthy relationships in our lives, and we can see the difference when we don't. Like when they're not healthy, it's always running in the background. Like, why isn't this working? How can I get this better? And it can take a big toll on us physically and emotionally and mentally when our relationships are not doing well. So it's important to have this healthy communication to support healthy and thriving relationships in our lives.
Beautiful. Yeah, I know it really is a skill. You wouldn't think,
Yeah.
it's like, why we know how to talk, we can talk to each other, but it's like we get into relationship, that's sort of where the rubber meets the road, right? Is then when everything's not always smooth and easy, and then how do we really have the skill to be able to connect with each other when things maybe aren't going so well. So what do
Yeah.
you see are some of the main communication pitfalls with your
Yeah.
clients? Yeah.
There are very many, and I'm just going to name off three here. And maybe I'll touch on some others, but the I'd say is the main three would be blame, criticism, and defensiveness. And so I'm going to break those down. The blaming is when we aren't taking responsibility, we're pointing the finger over there. So you did that, you're doing this. And so it's often using a you statement instead of an I statement. And it's pointing out someone's faults or that they're the problem and trying to source the cause of the issue. And usually it's over there, but sometimes we do it over here too, like it's my fault. But usually we're looking for the source of the problem or the fault. And so that's problematic because no one likes to be blamed. And then people will often respond to that with either more blame back or defensiveness. I didn't do it. I don't know what happened. It's not my fault. And then what you experience with that is more distance in the connection. So if you're really wanting closeness and to be heard and understood, blame is not the way. Usually you won't get more heard and understood or more connected. So it is a main pitfall. And criticism, the second one, is similar, kind of pointing the finger, but it's more looking at or pointing to someone's character traits or faults instead of their behavioral faults. So like you are wrong, or you are stupid, or you are a problem, or, why are you, how could you be so dumb, or how could you be so mean, or, so really pointing to someone's personality or character traits and making them wrong and attacking them. And so again, criticism, it kind of hurts more than blame for most people because it's taken like a personal attack. It is a personal attack. And so people are likely to attack back when they receive it. And again, it's the same thing. You're not getting connection if you use criticism. You may think you're trying to like give someone like help them change or something with blame and criticism, but it doesn't usually work very well. Again, you're more likely to create distance and to incite defensiveness or escalate an argument if you're using blame and criticism.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that thrives as a result of criticism, even though it might be the person giving it might be like their intentions might be good. Like if I, tell you what you're doing wrong, maybe I can help you see how to do it right. But it just kind of backfires, I know.
Yeah, it does.
That blaming, I know we've got one more too that you're going to talk about, but the blame, I know that's I see that so much too. It's just it's just so easy to look at that other person. It's much harder to, look at the other. We point a finger at someone, we got to look at the other three that are pointing back at us, right? It's easy to just look at that.
Exactly. And
yeah.
And it is kind of a default for people. I think like we're raised in a culture where there's a lot of blame and criticism. And I know I was raised in a household where there wasn't maybe as much criticism, but blame. Like looking for like who left the lights on, who didn't take the garbage out, and just like always looking to point the finger. And so it just comes naturally, if you were raised with that in that kind of environment.
Yeah,
We
we
have
know
to
it
unlearn.
it doesn't lead to any kind of constructive relationship, connection at all. The blaming, even though it may be easy to do in the moment. So blame, criticism, and what was the other?
And defensiveness. So we've talked about that a bit, but it's sort of like, you're protecting yourself. So it's sort of like you've got a wall up. Oh, I didn't do it, or I don't want to get hurt. So I don't want to take that in. I'm going to push it back at you or protect myself at least and like block you off. So that's what defensiveness is like. It's like excuses. It might look like I didn't do it. I don't know who did it. They did it. It might look like, rationalizing your way out instead of really taking responsibility. So the alternative is that taking responsibility, owning your part. That's the empowered part. So blame, criticism, and defensiveness are all disempowered, lacking empowerment, and not leading to connection. And the alternative, which I teach a lot about in a training I have coming up, we'll talk about later, but is how to practice this empowered communication. So
yeah, what do you think gets in the way of that empowered communication?
Again, like you may have been brought up in a way where it's just normal to take the victim stance. Like, I don't know what happened. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm just a problem. So that's like really common that we just take that. In fact, it's really popular to take the victim seat in any relationship. Like often when couples are fighting, they're both trying to get the victim, like, you hurt me, you hurt me, or yeah, I can't do it. I try. Well, I try, so there's not a lot of empowerment there, and there's no empowerment in the victim role. And so that's part of it. We just don't know any different. That's the soup we were stewed in as children or young adults. And so we're just modeling after, what we learned. But also, a lot can happen in our childhoods. So we are victims in childhood. We're not empowered. We don't have, much of a voice, or we don't know what's right and wrong. So we have to get taught. And when stuff happens to us in childhood, whether it's directly to us, like somebody's punishing us or harming us, or whether we're just, it just happens in our environment and we're affected by it, like our parents are arguing, or our parents got divorced, or somebody, moved away, or somebody got sick. That stuff affects us as children. And what children do is take that really personally, like, okay, my parents split up, it must be my fault, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Or my parents are arguing, it must be my fault. Or my sister's in the hospital, I'm not getting enough attention because she's getting all the attention. There must be something wrong with me. So young children take everything personally, and then have this concept that, I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy, or there's something wrong with me. And so that can really color how you then show up in later relationships. If you have this kind of complex of not good enough, not worthy, or I'm a problem, I always got punished, whatever it was, then that can affect, again, how you show up and how you communicate. So if you feel like not good enough, you might then be more likely to take that victim role, or like, I didn't do it, or I'm just a screw up, I'm just a mess, I don't know. Or you might be feeling like you have to defend yourself a lot. So if you were criticized a lot as a child, you might be the one who then turns around and criticizes your partner as an adult. Or if you were criticized a lot, you might also be really easy to get defensive, because you learned, like, whoa, I got to protect myself all the time. I don't know when that criticism's coming. It can come in any moment. Even if it doesn't seem like criticism to anyone else, you might perceive it as criticism, and like have this, defensive response ready to go. I just was working with a client around that yesterday, whose mother was super critical. And so it's really easy to take on these different stances of protecting yourself, or not trusting people because they were hurting you, and to carry that forward into adulthood. And so that can really directly affect how we show up in our adult relationships and in our communication.
Yeah, those experiences, they go way back. They really sort of determine a lot of how we're showing up now. I know from a lot of the work that I do too. And I know even just for myself, like it's so easy. Like I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily more sensitive to anybody else in the world, but I think, we're sensitive.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to get defensive. And
Yeah.
I know, that's a big problem, and that's been in my experience too, like in the past, especially talking with men. I think
Mhm.
that, I don't know, it might be to make too much of a generalization, but it they seem tough on the outside, but I feel like they're so sensitive, like they're so, like, at least my partner was so ultra sensitive to any kind of criticism, which, it does go back to really how you feel about yourself on the inside. But like
Yeah.
I was doing, using my best communication skills, my I statements, trying to like come from a really like neutral place. But anytime I said anything that was bothering me, he automatically would turn it around, and he would just take it as criticism, even though I did my best to not um,
Yeah.
come across that way. So I'm just curious if you have anything to say about that kind of a situation.
It's super tricky. I mean, I come across that a lot, and I hear from a lot of women, and I'd say even in our relationship too, my long-term relationship, when I think men, the way they're raised more is a lot more pressure to like be strong and be brave and do it everything you can and be all you can be, you know, and all these slogans that were programmed into them. And they tend to get harsher criticism from their fathers. And so I think that's a really common pattern that I hear, that men can be really hypersensitive to criticism. I'm not saying women aren't. The client I worked with yesterday was a woman who got criticized by her mother. So it, you know, can go both ways. But so in any case, just to say that you're not alone in that experience, and that's really common, and then how to work with that, you know, it's tricky because you can do your very best to use all the tools, and then someone, you know, is just easily triggered, you know, they feel like they're ready to just blow up at any moment. And so, you know, what I find is that's where you need help, like together as a couple, so they can start to see their part and how they're showing up, and have someone help to deconstruct, like, what's going on for you when I said that, like, why did you take that as criticism, you know? So if you can get help, great. And if you can't, you know, to just ask to sit down in a moment when you're not triggered, you know, in a peaceful moment, and set the time aside to like really have a meaningful conversation. We're about to talk about that actually, where you can say, I need to address something with you, and I'm really concerned about this or whatever. And hopefully they can listen, but you know, we can't, that's the tricky part. We can't control how someone perceives what we say. They may have these filters on that everything coming at me is criticism. If I'm doing anything wrong, everything is wrong. I'm doing it all wrong. And, you know, and there's only so much we can do in that case. It's tricky.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. And I lost what I was gonna say, but I guess oh yeah, you're modeling for us a good example of how we can address a situation like that. You know, sit down at a time when it's neutral, and just, you know, share your concerns, and just kind of talk about it. You know, and so that just shows, like, even if one person is doing the work, doing the conscious work, you can bring that to the relationship. And I know that's yeah, that's not always easy too. And I know you have a few more tips for us
Thank you.
for
Yeah.
how to communicate. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a few tips here to have better conversations in general. And then I've got another offering so that you can go deeper with all this. So 3 communication tips. The first one being eye contact. So I like to bring that one in because I think we've forgotten how valuable that can be in this world of texting and emailing, where we're not seeing somebody, we're not hearing them. Even voicemails, you know, you can't make eye contact, and there's a lot lost in translation when we don't have that direct eye contact, because so much of what we perceive is through body language and gestures and facial expressions. So all the Botox and the plastic surgery also gets in the way of of reading someone's face when their face doesn't move. But it's huge if you want to feel more connected and want to feel like you're getting heard, to have eye contact. And so if you are having an important conversation, you can ask for that, like I do. Like you could say, like, it's fine if you just have something you're telling me as you're walking through the room and we're both going different directions or something. We don't need to have like eye contact and have, you know, like, it's not super important. Like, hey, don't forget to let the dog out, you know, whatever. But if you have something important to say, then eye contact can really help you to feel like, you're with me, you're listening, you know, we're here together. So that's an important piece that's easily forgotten. And also I like to say, as you've heard me say before around this one, that some people are really uncomfortable with eye contact. So if that's you and you're listening, like, I hate eye contact, I always divert my eyes and I want to look anywhere else but in your eyes. Just know that affects people, that most people want eye contact. And so if you can't do it, you can just name that, like, I have a hard time with eye contact. I want to look at you, but it's hard for me. And you can just let them know, like, you're working on it, or, you know, and it is something you can work on, and do various types of work with early trauma that can help you get more comfortable to make eye contact. Because it is a real plus to have it. So that's eye contact. And then the second one is consent. And so this is where, it's like having an agreement. It's like getting on the same page or the same team with, okay, like we just had this example of we need to talk about something. When's a good time? And so having consent for the conversation instead of, we need to talk about it now and you got to sit down and listen to me. Like when you're demanding about someone listening or giving you their attention, it's not going to go as well as if both people can agree on, yes, we need to have a conversation and we're going to do it at 8 p.m. on Thursday night. Then that's really different. So when you get the buy-in, like we're doing this and that someone's available to do it, I don't mean just on their schedule with time, but actually in their body too, like they're not starving, they're not like having their, their body's not tired, they're not falling asleep on you, so that they physically can show up and that mentally they can show up. They're not like, they don't have a huge list they're working on and they like too much on their mind that they can't give you their full attention, or emotionally. Sometimes, like I hear often and why I use this example, I've worked with many clients who say like, I want to tell my husband something when he's walking in the room and he just wants to get away from me. He's like, well, yeah, he's had a hard day at work and he doesn't want to get bombarded with a bunch of needs. So sometimes whoever is walking in the room or walking in the door from a big day at work might need a break and might need a little like decompression time. And so we need to honor that if they have some physical or emotional needs, if they've been like bombarded all day or or they got really upset about something and they're carrying that into the house. Like you don't want to carry that into your conversation. So you want to be able to honor someone's needs to decompress or have some emotional downtime. So they're emotionally available for you when you're going to have a conversation. So for me, all that's part of consent: the physical, the mental, the emotional availability, the time. So that when you do sit down for this conversation, again, a meaningful one, if you don't have to necessarily have it to say, don't forget the, milk when you go to the store. But, when you really want to have a conversation, the consent is going to set the stage for both people to be present and to have the best possible conversation compared to the
That's huge.
alternative.
Yeah, I can see where you're really setting yourself up for a success, or at least a decent chance.
Exactly. Better chance than not. Okay, so the third one is an actual communication skill, and this is instead of the part where you speak, it's the part where you listen. So both have to happen skillfully in a connecting conversation. So this is practicing what I call reflective listening, where you feed back to the person a little bit about what you just heard. So they get, okay, you're with me, you're really listening. And it also can be nodding, like Reese has been doing, just like, okay, showing that you're following along. But the reflective listening can be a little bit of summary and reflecting back, like, I think this is what you were saying. Is that what you're saying? And you can ask, because you don't want to get it wrong, but you might get it wrong. And then they could say, actually, that's not quite what I meant. And this is what I meant. So there can be some clarification when you do that, instead of just thinking or assuming you're understanding, and then you got it. Maybe you didn't get it right, and then you're misinterpreting somebody, and that doesn't usually go well. Sometimes people have a big reaction to what they thought they heard, and then there's like, that's not what I was saying, actually. I've heard that sometimes from clients. Actually, I was just saying this, and they're like, oh my God, I thought you were saying that, and that's why I was so upset, So this reflective listening can help avert an argument or an upset time.
Yeah, it's amazing how we could be saying something and someone could be hearing something completely different. So that's really great to just reflect that back to make sure you're really hearing what they're meaning, so that you're avoiding a lot of that miscommunication there. But I know just, from my experience in being with people who are doing that, or when I'm doing that with people, it just feels so good. Like you really know they're hearing you, even if they really are understanding what you're saying, but just to hear the words kind of repeated back a little bit, it's like it just feels so validating. And it seems a small thing, but that's really powerful. That's a really powerful skill. And the eye contact too is it seems maybe like a small thing, but just that, even that in itself like, how often do you really give someone your,
Oh,
your full attention and your eyes and when it's important? So beautiful tips, Robin. Eye contact, consent, huge, and setting the stage and
reflective listening. Yeah.
reflective listening.
Which is
Yeah.
what I'm doing right now. You're repeating it back to me. So yeah.
Yeah. Seeing if I remember them all.
I know that's the thing. You can't wait too long to reflect it back or you won't get it. Yeah, what they said.
Oh,
Yeah.
really helpful. And so I know you have more. You have a free training, a free communication training. Can you tell us a little more about that and how we can
Yeah.
join you for that?
Yeah, I hope you do. And so this is a free communication training for women. And I call it the Connection Code, Mastering Authentic and Loving Communication. And it's 4 evenings for about 1 hour each of solid communication skills where I lay down like, why you should use this skill, how helpful it is and how to do it. And then I give you an assignment to do it. So it's very interactive. So you get to really practice it. So it's not just like taking it in while you're driving, but actually, go do it and come back and report how it went or ask a question. So I want you to leave the training with actually having implemented what I'm teaching and having it in your bones, like, yes, I know how to do this thing. So it's life-changing for a lot of people. They're like, that training I got from you a couple years ago, like I'm still doing that thing. It's really helped me. So it can really help your relationships with your significant other if you have one, but even if you don't, maybe with your daughter. I've had people work with teenagers are like, this really helped my relationship with my kid, or your parent or someone you're working with. So you can integrate it into any relationship, especially closer relationships. So what you're getting from the training is how to speak in a way that you can be heard and understood and make a deeper connection if you want to, how to avoid arguments and miscommunications as well, and how to deepen intimacy. So all that is part of this training. And it's next week. If you're listening to this, sometime soon, this training is coming up the 17th of March. Yeah. And I know you're going to put a link below this video, so check that link and click that to register, and it's totally free.
Yes, thank you, Robin. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I know how valuable the information is. I mean, we just got 3 little tips that were so valuable and so huge. And I love that you're doing it over 4 days and allowing time for people to interact live with you and get some coaching so that you can, I think that's really, people get a chance to try out the skills and then get some feedback. Oh, you know what, I tried that and this happened, or I choked, or, all this feeling came up in me, and just to receive feedback and coaching on how it can be implemented. And so how that's just incredibly valuable. What an incredibly valuable training. You're offering people a chance to not only learn some new skills, but actually practice them and get some feedback. So thank you so much for that generous offering that you're doing. I will put a link below the video or in the comments if you're in social media, if you're looking for that. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week for the training. Is there any other last words of wisdom or things you want to share before we let you go?
You'll see, if you come to the training, you'll see that one tagline I use is something, now I don't remember it exactly, but if you want to have healthy communication, it starts with you. So like we were saying before, even though someone else has their part, you have yours. And so you learning some skills and bringing that forward can really make a shift. And as you've heard, I work mostly with women. I do work with couples as well. But even when I'm just working with one partner and they're bringing new skills into the relationship, it really creates change, and they start getting along better, less arguing. I hear it all the time. So I just, hopefully I'm planting a seed of hope for you who's listening to take charge of your life, right? And not get out of that victim role, and get some empowerment and empower yourself with some tools and practices that you can use right away from this training and start making a change in whatever relationships, you want to use them in.
Beautiful, beautiful, Robin. Yeah, it takes two to tango, so we can show up and create a
Right.
new dance, right?
Yes,
Here's
yes.
to a healthy communication, empowered communication dance, starting with us.
Mhm.
All
Absolutely.
right. Thank you so much, Robin. We'll talk to you soon. Mwah.
Thanks,
Bye,
Teresa.
everyone.
Take care.